Hi, I'm Bill KEEFER with our new YouTube channel, Oregon Bicycle Videos, and welcome. We're going to cover a lot about bicycles, the Greenway here in the Rogue Valley, and just have some fun with bicycles. Remember, just get on your bicycle and ride.
In this introductory chapter, it is not proposed to deal with the forerunners of the bicycle, such as the hobby horse and some of the more weird wooden machines with 4 wheels and lever motion, which were known to be in existence before the introduction into this country of the bicycle propelled by cranks attached to the axle of the front wheel, called a velocipede. We will therefore begin with the velocipede, a type of machine which first attracted the attention of a Mr. Turner, who saw it being ridden and exploited at a Paris school of gymnastics. At this period in the history of bicycles, about 1868, the city of Coventry had established, by the enterprise of a few Coventry gentlemen, a factory for the production of sewing machines. The firm was known as the Coventry Sewing Machine Company, afterwards the Coventry Machinists Company, and was founded to find employment for people in the city who had been thrown out of work by the fierce competition of the foreign ribbons and watches which were admitted into the country, either free of duty or on conditions which left very little profit for Coventry ribbon and watchmakers. Mr. Turner, who was an agent for the firm, had been asked to look out for something in the mechanical line, suitable for manufacture at the sewing machine factory, and having been much impressed by the novelty and possibilities of the new velocipede, immediately secured a sample of the machine and brought or sent it to Coventry. The directors and managers of the concern there, after a trial of the bone shaker sent over from Paris, decided to begin manufacturing and marketing the machine, and a dozen or so were put in hand at their workshops and proved a success. This bicycle was made with a cast iron frame. The felloes and spokes of the wheels were of hickory, with steel tyres, and the saddle was a wooden one covered with leather, thinly padded, and supported on a long flat spring of steel. The bearings were plain journals. That is, in place of steel ball bearings, the axles of the wheels were of steel, and they turned in chilled cast iron holes in the ends of the forks. The pedals were called treadles, and were mostly of wood. A machine of this description, ready for the road, was sold in London for about £12, without accessories such as lamp, pocket oil can, shifting spanner, leather tool bag, and brake cord, which cost about 25 shillings more. The success of this machine made by the Coventry Machinists Company laid the foundation of the trade in Coventry, and it was not very long before quite a considerable business was done by the pioneer firm, and they found it necessary to import into the city mechanics who were more used to the running of heavier machinery than their first employees, engaged in the making of sewing machines. Many of these men came from a firm of ships' engine makers, Penn's of Greenwich, now merged with other concerns. Among them were such well-known names as George Singer, James Starley, W. Hillman, etc. T. Bayliss and J. Thomas were pioneers in the trade. The former was a Birmingham gunmaker, the latter came from a cutlery shop at Banbury. Gradually these people started workshops of their own, and with local capital and their own savings embarked themselves as manufacturers of bicycles. Matters progressed rapidly, and like all new trades, it attracted other mechanics and engineers to the city of Coventry. Names such as Haynes and Jeffries, Rudge, Warman, Laxon, Hazelwood, George Townend, Hosier, Hillman, Harrington, etc. are all associated with the early days of bicycle manufacture. In other towns, Parr at Leicester, Robinson and Price at Liverpool, etc. were gaining a reputation. Gradually the design of the bone shaker was improved. Wrought iron frames followed the cast ones, bearings were made adjustable, rims were covered with rubber instead of steel, the early rubber tyres were flat and secured to the felloe by nails, and steel spokes followed the wooden ones. The great drawback to the bone shaker was its weight, and makers were constantly endeavouring to lighten their productions. Naturally, the saving of weight that first occurred to these pioneers was to make the parts hollow. Many keen practical minds were at work, and one part after another was reduced in weight until there were few parts of the machine that were not made either of hollow steel tube or stamped hollow. Even spokes were tried of thin steel tube before the introduction of the suspension or wire wheel. The backbone of the bicycle, which was evolved from the bone shaker, was of steel tube, at first of flat steel folded and brazed, and lastly drawn out from a solid steel block without a join or weldless as it is termed. The fork sides or blades of the fork, the part in which the wheels revolved, and which were used to connect the wheels to the backbone on which the rider sat and propelled the machine, were made hollow in the same manner. The wheels were at first copies of a light handcart wheel. The wood spokes were brought together by tapering the spoke ends and wedging them together at the nave or hub, and inserting the other ends in the slots in the felloe or wood rim. The whole was surrounded with a flat steel tyre, shrunk on by heating the rim, dropping it over the felloe, and when it cooled it shrank and compressed the parts together. That is the principle of the compression wheel, and is used for all wood-wheeled carts and vans today. The cycle makers, in their search for lightness, first made similar compression wheels, with hollow steel spokes screwed into iron naves and rims. Then came the suspension wheel, which had all the spokes in tension instead of compression. These were first constructed by heading the spokes, threading them through a steel felloe or rim, and inserting them into screwed nipples which were in their turn screwed into the flanges of the hub. Subsequently the spokes were screwed direct into the hub, and tensioned by turning the spoke itself and not the nipples. Mention also must be made of the lever construction of Haynes and Jeffries, the precursors of the Rudge firm. This was an arrangement that tensioned the wheel by pulling a lever attached to the spokes so that they were strained in a direction tangential to their hub, and held tight by locking the lever. Following the methods already described, the laced and tangent spoked wheels were introduced. This type of wheel is the modern one that has survived all the others, and reverses the process employed for straight spoked wheels in tension. The flanges of the hub are drilled at right angles. The headed spokes are bent close to the head and threaded through the holes made in the hub flange. The rim ends of the spokes are screwed and inserted in brass or gunmetal nipples, which are passed through holes in the rim from the top or outside, and have heads which prevent the tension on the spoke from pulling them through the rim. Washers are also placed under the heads and fitted in the bed of the rim to strengthen the rim at the points where this tension strain occurs.